The Formula One world is in turmoil. Just when we thought the storm surrounding the new 2026 regulations had subsided, the FIA has dropped a bombshell that is shaking the entire paddock. Ahead of the Chinese Grand Prix, the Motorsport Federation has issued a shocking statement that places Mercedes, the dominant winner of the season opener in Australia, at the center of an emergency investigation. The accusations are serious, and the consequences could completely turn the championship on its head. It's a story of a clever trick, a political chess game, and a race against time that is dividing the sport to its core. The heart of the problem is the Mercedes engine. After the dominant 1-2 victory of George Russell and Kimi Antonelli in Melbourne, where the Silver Arrows were almost a second per lap, faster than the competition in qualifying, alarm bells immediately went off for the rivals. The lead was too big, too sudden. Lewis Hamilton, now with Ferrari, was one of the first to openly express his doubts. "I hope it's not that compression thing," he said after qualifying. He was referring to a rumor that had been circulating for weeks. Mercedes had allegedly found a loophole in the regulations regarding their engine's compression ratio. The 2026 rules prescribe a maximum compression ratio of 16:1, a reduction from previous years. However, this measurement was only performed at room temperature. The rumor, which sources say was leaked by a former Mercedes employee who moved to another team, states that Mercedes uses a pre-chamber in the cylinder head. This allows the compression ratio when the engine is at operating temperature to increase to as high as 18:1, the value that was permitted until last year. The result? A significant power advantage, estimated by rivals to be 20 to 25 horsepower, which translates to several tenths per lap. The FIA, under immense pressure from Ferrari, Red Bull, Honda, and Audi, had no choice but to act. Although the FIA's technical commissioner Vincent Perrame had initially declared the Mercedes engine legal, the outcry was too great. After weeks of heated discussions in the Power Unit Advisory Committee, PUAC, a unanimous agreement was reached to amend the rules. And that's where the shocking statement comes in. The FIA has announced that the test procedure will be changed as of June 1, 2026. From that date, the compression ratio will be measured not only cold, but also hot, at an oil temperature of 130 degrees Celsius. Any construction designed to increase the compression ratio under operating conditions is explicitly prohibited. This is, in effect, an emergency investigation in disguise. The FIA is not explicitly saying that Mercedes is breaking the rules, but the measure is clearly aimed at the innovation of the Brackley-based team. The date of June 1 is crucial. It falls right after the Monaco Grand Prix, the 8th race of the season. Since teams are allowed to use 3 engines per season, this would be the moment when Mercedes introduces their second engine. So they have until Monaco to take advantage of their lead, but must then use a modified and therefore likely less powerful engine. The championship is effectively being split into 2 parts, a pre-Monaco and a post-Monaco era. The anger and frustration among Mercedes' customer teams is enormous. McLaren, Williams, and Alpine feel betrayed. They receive the same hardware but lack the knowledge and software to exploit the engine in the same way. Andrea Stella, McLaren's team principal, was furious. Lando Norris was a staggering 51 seconds slower than winner Russell in Melbourne, a painful testament to the difference. Stella complained that the discussion with Mercedes about sharing more information had been going on for weeks to no avail. That's not how you work in Formula One. Normally you simulate everything, you know what's going to happen. Now we're just reacting to what we see. James Vowles of Williams shared that sentiment. He estimates the deficit on the engine side alone to be 0.3 of a second. It creates a 2-tier system within Formula One, where the factory teams have an insurmountable advantage. Mercedes itself, through Toto Wolff, continues to insist that the engine is completely legal and that the advantage is only marginal. But behind the scenes, a strategic game is being played. Mercedes is accused of deliberately reducing their lead in the race to prevent rivals from qualifying for the so-called Additional Development and Upgrade Opportunities, ADUO. These rules allow manufacturers who are more than 2% behind the fastest engine to introduce extra upgrades. By keeping the margin small, Mercedes can block this catch-up mechanism for the competition. The situation is a political powder keg. Hamilton, now the main rival, is publicly putting pressure on the FIA. His former teammate George Russell can laugh about it. He joked that on the flight to China, he will tell Hamilton to shut up about the illegal engine. But behind the joke lies a serious battle that is putting relationships in the paddock on edge. The upcoming races until Monaco will be an intense sprint. Mercedes will try to build as large a lead as possible in the championship, knowing that their advantage will disappear afterwards. Rivals will do everything they can to limit the damage and hope that the ADUO rules can help them in the second half of the season. With its statement, the FIA has dropped a bomb on the season. It's not an official investigation, but the message is clear. The rules are being tightened, and the party from Mercedes will soon be over. The Chinese Grand Prix will be the next act in this high-stakes drama, a taste of the battle that will grip Formula One until the summer. The irony of the situation is that the FIA is, in fact, admitting its own mistake. By changing the test procedure, they are implicitly acknowledging that the original rules contained a loophole. The decision to perform the measurement only at room temperature was a crucial omission that Mercedes, with their vast technical resources and expertise, has ruthlessly exposed. It is a classic example of the eternal battle in Formula One between the rule makers and the engineers who are constantly pushing the boundaries of those rules. The so-called spirit of the rules is a noble concept, but in the cutthroat world of Formula One, only what is literally written on paper counts. And on that paper, there was nothing about the engine's temperature during the measurement. The two-step implementation of the new test procedure, first a dual measurement, cold and hot from June, and from 2027 only a hot measurement, is a compromise. It gives Mercedes time to adapt and prevents a sudden drastic shift in the pecking order that could destabilize the sport. But it is also a band-aid on a gaping wound. The customer teams are left out in the cold until June, forced to compete with inferior material. The frustration of Andrea Stella is telling. He speaks of a journey of knowledge that has only just begun for his team, McLaren, while the factory team has already reached its destination. It is a journey they must undertake on their own, without the roadmap that Mercedes jealously guards. The role of Lewis Hamilton in this whole drama is fascinating. As a 7-time world champion with Mercedes, he knows the inner workings of the team like no other. Now that he is driving for the main rival, Ferrari, he does not hesitate to publicly pillory his former employer. His statements after qualifying in Melbourne were a calculated move, designed to exert maximum pressure on the FIA. He knows exactly which strings to pull, by threatening to push his own team to do the same thing. He creates a scenario that the FIA absolutely wants to avoid, a costly and complex development race in the middle of the season. It is a masterful political move from a driver who is a strategist not only on the track, but also off it. The FIA has bought itself some breathing room with the announcement of the rule change in June, but the pressure remains unabated. The emergency investigation may not be official, but the message is loud and clear. The hunt for Mercedes is on, and the soul of the 2026 championship hangs in the balance.